This guy knows all about campus, all about partying. Pat Forde, Sports Illustrated senior writer. Where did you go to college, Pat?
University of Missouri, an above average partying school, I would say. I don't know how high we will rank on this list.
Did you have a famous classmate at Missouri?
Well, there was this guy, he was in journalism school and he dropped out 3 hours short of graduation. I'm not sure what became of him, but his name was Brad Pitt.
He was in journalism?
Yeah, he was in advertising at Missouri.
Did you have classes with Brad Pitt?
If I did, I didn't know it. I might have. I tried to stay away from the ad classes, but, we might have had some of those, history and principles of journalism classes.
What did you make of week 0 for college football? Why did we have to have week 0?
So that Nebraska fans could absolutely lose their minds. That's why we had to have week 0. That was really the only major takeaway from it is, oh my gosh, what a disastrous start for Nebraska. And I gave the Big Ten credit. They have given us stuff to watch early with that game and then with a bunch of good games this weekend. So we're not sitting around watching, Big Ten schools against directional U. But that was a bad start for Nebraska.
Is the Heisman Spencer Rattlers to lose?
I think that might be a little too simple, but you know what? You plug him in at the way he ended last year. If that carries over and he has that second year bump up like Baker Mayfield did, his numbers should be spectacular. And if they win their games, then he would be a logical favorite. But I think you look at Sam Howell at North Carolina, and there's going to be, somebody's going to put up a bunch of stats for Ohio State. Somebody's going to put up a bunch of stats for Alabama. Maybe DJ Uyunglele at Clemson. So there's some other alternatives for now.
Ohio State kicks off its season against Minnesota. What other intriguing games do you have this weekend?
That one's super intriguing. Thursday night we've got some stuff, but Friday we have North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and then Saturday so much. I mean, LSU at UCLA, and LSU was displaced by Hurricane Ida. How prepared are they to go into the Rose Bowl to play Chip Kelly's best team? Miami brings a lot of confidence and experience in against an inexperienced Alabama offense. We'll see if they can keep it close. And then I'm going to Georgia Clemson, which is a big-time heavyweight game, but both sides could have COVID issues there. We'll see if there are players missing on both sides.
If I said that you could have Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama, or everybody else in America for the national title, would you take those three or an outlier?
I would probably take those three since my top two going into the season were Alabama and Ohio State. That said, I don't think they're way above Georgia and Oklahoma. But I still, past history and recruiting, I would put those three certainly. If you're going to give me those three, I'd take them.
Who is the most intriguing player/person in college football this year?
I'm going to say Bryce Young, the quarterback at Alabama. He has not played a meaningful snap yet, and he's gotten 6-7 figures in endorsements. He steps into a position that, as we have seen, has produced 3 straight NFL starters, first-round guys that are, gone on to do well, and he's got a new offensive coordinator, Bill O'Brien, coming from the NFL. Does it work the way it has the last several years at Alabama? He's a super talent, but again, haven't seen him do it at the college level yet.
The most intriguing coach this season in college football is
Steve Sarkisian, Texas. Stepping in, they spent a lot of money to get rid of Tom Herman. They just made one of the most audacious moves in the history of college athletics to jump to the SEC. And while they're not in there yet, that's the context for this season. And Sark, he's coming from the Alabama rehab mode there, where they recycle coaches and give them a second chance. And we'll see, is he a better coach than he was at USC and at Washington? Because he was okay there, but he wasn't great. Can he get Texas up to a level where they can go into the SEC and compete eye to eye with people?
You have the Big Ten, ACC, and Pac-12. This is sort of, they're in the on-deck circle, just like Texas and Oklahoma in the SEC. But it feels like there are so many questions and not any answers with this alliance here, that they just want to be able to say, hey, we got veto power with these three conferences against the SEC. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out is there another shoe to drop with this, or is it just sort of going to move along at a snail's pace?
I think that there was some, obviously some huge action and significant reaction, but mostly I think this was them saying, hey, we all need to do something here. We're not sure exactly what we're doing yet, but we got to do something. And so this alliance, what it does, it gives a proactive win to three relatively new commissioners who need something to show their constituency, like, hey, we're on top of this. Secondly, I think the biggest thing it does is try to slow down an ESPN SEC power play and say, we're not voting for your expanded playoff if it's all going to be an ESPN property, because two of our conferences, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, are closely aligned with Fox, and we don't want to give everything to have everything continue to be with ESPN, especially now that you have even made it very clear that SEC gets most favored nation status with that network. So I think this is as much a way to stop an ESPN/SEC move to just have even more influence over the way college football is run.
I'm surprised that the SEC didn't reach out to Oregon, USC, and unless we didn't hear about it, but I would have truly had a SEC East and an SEC West, and you could have put Texas and Oklahoma in with USC and Oregon and Washington and Arizona State. Do you think that Greg Sankey reached out to those schools?
I wouldn't be shocked if he did. As you said, I mean, if you're going to go big, why not go humongous? Okay. I mean, you've gone to 16. Yeah. What's to stop you now from continuing to go further and just try to do everything you can to put even your one competitor, really, which is the Big Ten, in terms of revenue and fan bases and all that stuff, even further behind? The one thing, though, I mean, the Pac-12 is different. We know that. And USC, as much as they like football and want to be back to being prominent in football, it's also a pretty serious academic institution, as is most of the states, all the Pac-12 schools in the state of California. And I'm not sure they're ready to just say, okay, let's make this incredibly different move just for football reasons.
Well, that's what I wondered about the Big Ten. That does the Big Ten pick off a couple of schools? I mean, it didn't go well with Rutgers and Nebraska and Maryland, but do you? I wouldn't be sitting back waiting, but right. I don't know if this is the right move for the Big Ten to be in bed with the ACC, sort of be in bed with the ACC and the Pac-12.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing you look at is, why are they doing it? Because they don't necessarily need the other two, whereas the other two need the Big Ten more. But I think your point of veto power of 3 versus 1 is significant there. The other thing, and again, I just think most of these schools look at this more as an academic alignment at the presidential level. Who are we aligned with academically? And now that's where you could see the Big Ten saying, yeah, we'd like to align with those California schools. And sure, give us Virginia and North Carolina. And hey, Notre Dame, maybe. That wouldn't shock me if it ends up going that way. I do think we seem headed towards an era of the power schools in each conference exerting themselves a little bit more. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State saying, you know what? We should be getting more money than Illinois and Purdue and Iowa, and USC and Oregon, those saying maybe the same thing out there. I just think that we're going to see schools trying to at least flex their muscles for either a better arrangement within their conference or to get out of their conference and go join other powerhouse schools.
I know you were at the Olympics, you were working, but your daughter was swimming for the United States. What was it like to go to watch? Were you covering your daughter in her event when she was swimming?
Fortunately, no. We had somebody else there from Sports Illustrated to handle coverage that night. And so I got to just watch as a bite your lip fan in the middle of the media seating, because there was no fans to go sit with, anything like that. So, I mean, I am there I was cheering in the press box. I was violating that rule. Let's be clear about that. But
what's that feeling like, though? Your daughter is swimming in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And you see
surreal.
her dive in.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, you can't, I fail to find the right words for it, but just to see her come out on the pool deck with her relay teammates wearing the Stars and Stripes cap, and it says 40 on the side. It's like, that is my kid that I've watched swim since she was 5 years old in the little neighborhood meets, and through elementary school, high school, college, and now the pinnacle. It was overwhelming. It was extremely emotional. And then as soon as she was done, I ran down to the mix zone where you can actually interact with your athletes. Now, we were separated by barriers because of COVID restrictions, but just to be there with her right after that moment, that's a lifetime highlight for sure.
Did you cry?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I didn't right there with her, but as soon as she left the room, yeah, then the waterworks started. And I cried like 8 times when she made the team at Olympic trials.
You're a softie.
Yeah. I admit it.
Hey, great to talk to you as always. We'll check in with you during the season. Thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
Pat Forde, Sports Illustrated.